Joining me now is NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Reilly. So, Ryan, we are digging through these new papers that have been released by the Justice Department. What are your key takeaways? What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, this is largely sort of a media pushback, right? Because these first came out through Pam Bondi's Twitter account and them announcing, this is the underlying documentation. This is just not how due process normally works. It's not we send someone to a foreign prison and then all of a sudden we're sending these documents afterwards when, there's no way to contact him and, sort of get, I guess, his side of the story. This is someone who's being held in really horrific conditions, those person before. But, the case itself, it supports a little bit, more of the underlying investigation. These are from Prince George's County investigation. This all happened they originally encountered him in the Home Depot parking lot. And there's a couple of factors in there that seem to, suggest, but certainly it's not, a beyond the reasonable doubt sort of thing. But I think the key thing here is that had this gone through the sort of normal process, this is someone who might not even be on our radar at all. This is not this could have been handled sort of through the normal case rather than this extraordinary, procedure where people in America are being sent to a foreign prison.
And there was another remarkable development yesterday. We learned about a temporary restraining order that was requested by his wife back in 2021. She's now speaking out about that, explaining it, giving it a little bit more context. What are we learning there? Yeah,
she said that, she had had previous experience with domestic violence and that they eventually, had sort of settled this and worked everything out in the end.
Not with him, but with a different person.
Correctly. Yeah, correct. Right. So this was, she was sort of saying, based on that previous experience, that's the approach that she sort of took to this. But, I think this is just one of those other efforts to, this is not normally the way that this entire procedure would work. There are procedures for this. And of course, there are administrative judges within DOJ and immigration judges who can, evaluate these issues. And that's the key thing here. The reason that this has risen to this level is because what the DOJ had admitted before that immigration attorney was fired for making that, for saying that in court, is that there was this order not to take this individual to El Salvador. And that's really what this case is fundamentally all about.
Ryan, very quickly, there had been a big back and forth with the judges asking the administration and the Justice Department for more information that they were not providing. They provided some information. Is it enough, though, to satisfy what the judges are asking for?
I don't think no. They're essentially sort of, it seems as though they're trying to basically offer no more information. There are updates that they're required to send every day, or essentially things stand where they were. Nothing,
right. Ryan Reilly, thank you so much. Great to see you. Appreciate it. I want to turn now to Chuck Rosenberg, who's with me on set, former U.S. attorney and an NBC News legal analyst. Chuck, thank you so much for being here. Let's start right where I left off with Ryan, this standoff, really, between the Justice Department and the courts. What do you make of how the Justice Department is handling the situation so far?
So I have an old-fashioned view of this, Kristen. That the Justice Department is not your average litigant, that the Justice Department has a higher duty and a higher calling. And so, my view had always been that it wasn't my job necessarily to win. It was my job to see that justice was done. And by the way, don't credit that to me. That comes from an old Supreme Court case, a case called Berger, dates back to 1935. And the notion behind Berger was that exactly that a Justice Department prosecutor is different. Their duty is to see that justice is done. And that's troubling to me in this recent context. It seems like winning has become more important than justice.
And just to follow up on that point, I mean, are there any repercussions for the Justice Department, for the Attorney General, if the courts do not feel as though they are abiding by that principle, that very critical principle?
Oh, absolutely. Because as prosecutors, we are playing a long game, right? Credibility is the key to the kingdom here. You can lie once, but you can never lie again, because we all live in small towns in the Justice Department, and your reputation, which takes a lifetime to build, can be ruined instantaneously. And I know many judges who often look to the prosecutor to recite the facts, because prosecutors have done that well and credibly for 200 years. If we lose that, that's the repercussion. If judges can't rely on the Justice Department for an accurate recitation of the facts, that's the repercussion. That would be deeply damaging to the institution and to the institution of justice. And I'm not quite sure how you get that back once it's gone.
Let's talk a little bit about what the Supreme Court has said. They have basically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, called on the Trump administration to facilitate or effectuate the return of Abrego Garcia. And the administration is saying, well, facilitate could mean providing an airplane once the president of El Salvador releases Mr. Abrego Garcia. They're saying it's up to the president of El Salvador because he's in their custody now. Can this only end with the Supreme Court clarifying what it meant by facilitate?
Well, it's not the only way it could end. I mean, you and I both know what the word facilitate means. And if we're unclear on it, Kristen, we could go back to the court and say, you know what? There's a legal meaning of facilitate, perhaps, and a dictionary meaning of facilitate, and we're a little confused. Can you help us? In good faith, if you don't know what facilitate means, go ask the court. Seek further guidance. But the sharp lawyering that's going on here, arguing that facilitate is amorphous or unclear, I think is somewhat disingenuous. It's not that hard a word to sort of divine. And I think, again, going back to what we just discussed, the Department of Justice has a higher obligation. They should meet it in this case and in every case. If they really, truly don't know what facilitate means, go ask for a clarification.
Do you think, given that, it doesn't seem like the administration is going to ask for that clarification, no. Do you think at some point the Supreme Court, that this case will go back to the Supreme Court?
Possibly.
Okay.
Though it shouldn't have to. It's possible that an appellate court, a higher court than the district court, issues a judgment, and that becomes the final judgment because the Supreme Court doesn't have to take this again. And I hope it doesn't take that long either. I hope cooler and wiser heads prevail. I hope that the Department of Justice understands that it is obligated to follow court orders. And by the way, we're always welcome to disagree with an order. We're not welcome to disobey an order. If you disagree, you appeal. At some point, it becomes final, and then you obey. And I hate to make it sound so simple, Kristen, but it's actually pretty simple.
Let's talk about this issue of due process. It's gotten a lot of attention. And as we're having this conversation, Chuck, I should remind our viewers we are waiting for a press conference to start in Florida about the tragic shooting there. So I might have to interrupt our conversation and go to that. We are going to go to a special report on that.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.